to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. All right. We will begin tonight with the elementary principal's report.
All righty. Good evening. Happy Easter almost. All right. So
spring.
Yeah, I hope
spring
not.
is
Maybe.
here. I'm going to start off by saying our experience with CBT at the elementary school went off very well.
And CBT
We computer-based testing.
Thank you.
We tested our 3rd through 6th grade students on day 1, which was a Monday, and we had no concerns whatsoever with testing. Day 2 was the day that some schools across the state experienced some concerns. We did with a couple of students that took us some time to get on and some issues with them submitting their test at the end. However, they were all submitted from that day, and the makeups had since been done after that, so our ELA is complete. So we had a great success. There was some very positive things that occurred, both administratively and with the students. Teachers are kind of aware of some of the things that they need to work on with the computer-based test, but they use the similar Chromebooks to what you have in front of you with their testing. We're looking forward to math coming up on April 30th and May 1st is our 2 days we're expecting math to take place. So I know there's been some questions and concerns across the state with CBT and the vendor, et cetera, but here we happen to get in right under those concerns that were happening across the state and had a pretty good success here. I think it was a couple of months ago, if not longer than that, I was provided an email address from and a contact by a resource called the National Humane Education Society. And with that, I had reached out to June Lombardi, our humane person, and she reached out to the Humane Society. And this past week, we had, there's June. You want to talk about it? Our National Humane Society assembly that took place.
Did you adopt the dogs?
No.
There were some cute ones in the pictures.
This organization was founded in 1948, and it runs strictly on donations. So we have these 2 ladies that, and there are probably other team members that travel throughout the country to promote kindness in animals and educate about, depending on the age group, spaying, neutering, the older kids, what a dog might feel being chained outside in all weather as opposed to the dog once it's rescued in the house, so on and so forth. So it's very age appropriate and warm and fuzzy, and they, since they're not familiar in the area because they're from West Virginia, they were really excited to learn that 8 people or 7 people with 8 dogs or something like that came the other day that were certified therapy handler dog teams. Most of them were certified through the same agency that River and I are certified through. And so they were just so excited about coming and just giving their time. And the children got to interact with the dogs. We learned some stuff. I was speechless when I learned that there wasn't another school district in our county that took them up on this offer. It's free. Yeah. Each teacher received a beautiful lesson plan book with all kinds of things that if they choose to incorporate little things in their classrooms, they can. But
And we're gonna have them at the high school next year.
Yeah, and they're willing to come. They haven't done a high school presentation because they haven't had an opportunity to.
Well, they will next
And
year.
they're very excited about coming up with an age-appropriate concept for you folks.
Kindness spans the ages.
Excuse me?
Kindness spans all ages.
So, I mean, they were just so impressed with our district, the knowledge the kids had, the courtesy that the kids had. They loved our building and warm welcome.
And I
They
got the
loved the
pleasure to do
idea
it.
that you folks are so receptive to wonderful things. And honestly, when I heard that nobody else did this in the county, I have to thank Scott, because he could have tossed that in the garbage. And instead, he asked my opinion, and I gave it, and then it was possible.
I think it's awesome.
I was impressed by the two ladies that did the presentation. They not only provided a great presentation, but had it scripted so you could actually follow along with the times that they were going to spend on each one of the activities. So they really took some time to be able to do that. So thank you, June, and for continuing to reach out. Also at the elementary school, we have great news. We're again participants in the Catholic Charities 25th Annual Alcohol, Tobacco, Gambling, and Drug Abuse Poster Contest. That's the one that we go to the Government Center each year with the students. We had a large number of honorable mentions that will be traveling with Mrs. Gersten to that presentation at the Government Center. But I would like to say that we did have a third place winner. Liana Mullen came in third place. Emma O'Connell was the second place winner. Luke Potter in first place. And amongst all of the schools, they had a grand prize person that took in the poster contest, and that student was an Mackenzie elementary student, Avery Moscatello.
Wow.
So Avery was a
did
grand
very
prize
well.
on that. So we're very
Give them a
pleased
hand.
with all of the students that participated, along with Mrs. Gersten that does that as part of her curriculum each and every year. Upcoming, like I said, we have our CBT upcoming, and also this week we did have a Project Wild Assembly. A gentleman from Kansas City, I think it was, travels with a number of endangered type of species and did a presentation for the students here with us about how to conserve their area. So we had a lot of animal type of presentations this week. So that was a great presentation. Also, he engaged the kids and talked about the areas that the animals come from and the ways that they can also conserve their habitats and things that they have. And that was put on by our PTA, so we like to thank them also.
What did he bring? Who?
Oh, he brought a chinchilla, some type of a couple of lizards, actually a snake-ish type of lizard. Kelly here?
Well,
And a snake.
A snake,
I like snakes.
some type of parrot bird from different areas in the world. So it was very
Cool.
informative.
I think anything like that that exposes our students to the wider world, to the bigger concerns, to our concerns nationwide, worldwide, I think that's phenomenal. Because how else do they get exposed to the real thing, except touching and feeling and
Right.
listening and seeing? Wonderful. Good.
Great. That's what I have to share with you this month.
Nice.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Questions from the board? All right, we will move on to the high school principals, secondary principals report.
thank you. As with Mackenzie, we did New York State competency-based testing for our 7th and 8th graders only, and it was ELA. We have the choice of when to start. Scott started on Monday, we started on Tuesday. Our kids we knew because they had done a practice test. Everything was fine until we got to the point where the kids were submitting. Tests were all done. And we had the same issue they had across the state relative to submission. Tech support
was like a 3-hour wait to find out what was happening. And we were fine. We just collected all of their computers, they're labeled, and around 1 o'clock, there was no problem. We submitted them all. We had to wait because the state said, please wait, relative to part 2. And we did the part 2 on Thursday. Everything was fine. No problems whatsoever. Makeups, no problems whatsoever. And all of our students that attend BOCES, who take that test, theirs were fine. They do paper testing instead of CBT testing, but all of theirs went very well. We had a very successful Career Pathways Fair at the high school. Scott Halleck had talked with John and myself and gentlemen in the community who brought in various professional people, contractors, etc., who came in, set up booths in our gymnasium, and it was available from 9 to 4. So all of our students and parents could come and just explore some areas of careers that they might not be aware of. And also certainly good for our kids who are thinking about VOTEC, and a lot of the people that were there are involved with VOTEC, so it worked very, very well. We had a magnificent 2 evenings and an afternoon of Once Upon a Mattress. It was just a fabulous production. Kids did a superb job. It's a wonderful show, and they did it beautifully. And we also did a special show that we've never done before. And on Thursday, which would normally be their last dress rehearsal, we invited the senior citizen community to come in and see the dress rehearsal at no charge. And they came, and the dress rehearsal went beautifully. And then our kids came down off stage. We had refreshments, and they talked with the senior citizens. It was a very, very good time. Had a Tricky Tray fundraiser, the last one for our senior class. Went extremely well, and they now have raised all the money that they needed to for their upcoming trip to Boston. So we're looking very forward to that. We have with us this evening a student from the high school, Miss Hannah Rowlands. And Hannah is one of our VOC-Ed kids who is in the nursing program, and she won 2nd place in the regional competition for Skills USA. And at the end of the month, she is going to Syracuse for 3 days to participate in the state competition. So we are so proud of Hannah and so glad that she did. And so is Mother Ruth.
We spoke with your teacher when we were at BOCES.
Yes, she spoke so highly of you, and that's how we found out about it. We weren't informed otherwise, and so we were thrilled, and we're like, Hannah, we'll find her and we'll bring her.
Your teacher is very proud of you.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And so are we.
Way to go, Hannah.
We held our annual Music in Our Schools Month concert a couple of weeks ago. They did a very exciting program, different, and I would just like to extend my thanks not only to the students, but to Mrs. Schultz and Mr. Nivison, who did a wonderful job. If you have juniors and seniors, I'm sure you already know, the prom tickets are on sale for our prom in May. We also have our it's the third, I believe, or the fourth of our blood drives that we do every year. And it is sponsored by our National Honor Society. And they'll be coming May 1st. And it runs from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you are able to give, please come. We appreciate it. And this afternoon, before the kids went home, we had our annual Color Wars competition for grades 7 through 12. And it was a bit of a culmination of our Spirit Week. And the kids are really wonderful, and we tell you that all the time. But if you ever get a chance to come to the high school and see Color Wars, it is just magnificent. Our kids are really competitive. They love competition. And the classes outdid themselves with the banners they made, the games, some of which are absolutely impossible.
Kelly said that all.
And Kelly Pratchler sets all of it up, gets all the games together. They do let the faculty be a team also. We don't do well.
We don't do well.
We don't
The
do
team
well
doesn't
at
do
all.
well.
It's a disaster. But the kids do very well. And they leave from Color Wars and get on their buses to go home. So we're very good at camping at the high school.
Very good.
Any questions from the board?
From the board.
The play was outstanding.
It was outstanding.
It was.
It truly, truly was. It was well casted.
Yes, it was.
And the
Yes.
set was beautiful.
And they made all those sets. I want the birdcage.
We have to talk to Kristen Smith. That's
I
ours.
know.
It's Kristen's birdcage, huh? Thank you, Kristen, for
Connie,
the birdcage.
Connie O'Cliff and Beth really did a lot of hard work with that, with getting everything.
They're
in.
exceptional,
It was-
yes.
a
It
lot of
was,
fun.
given the kind of space we have and all the blocking that they have to do, and creation of a set that will work, even though the environments are changing, and they make it work. It was just very, very well done.
And I have to say, related to the play, I've seen the play, I think, every year since its inception. Every year, I thought it was getting better. Some years we had a little dip in there, but this year the sound system worked to the favor of the students, so we could hear, all of us, and they were clear, and their voices, oh my goodness, those voices. So
We have-
it lent itself to an excellent production. And when Bob and I talked about it, we said what was different than some other years is that our lead players owned their parts. They got into their parts. They were those characters. And that's why it flew like it did. It was remarkable.
Yep.
Pleasure, just a pleasure, yes.
I went each night and,
Did you?
because my son's in it.
Yes.
And it was just funnier each night. It
It's a
was-
funny play.
And,
It's a
but
funny
what I
musical.
liked a lot, even more than just the play, was the amount of faculty and staff
Yes.
that were in the audience. I mean, even faculty and staff that don't even live in the district, don't have kids in the district, and I just had so many of them that traveled from wherever they were or stayed and went home late in order to see the show to support
We
our
have
kids.
remarkable support from
Yeah.
our staff and faculty. So, thank you. Any other questions? No? Then we will go on to our district treasurer's report and presentation.
That's good report.
Okay, report, presentation.
Is there
Make sure
a
you use
microphone over there, or do I need one?
Yeah, use the
All
mic,
right.
please.
I'm just-
Never hurts.
Okay, I'm gonna try to just make this as quick as possible and kind of give you an update of the things that I've changed on the budget that you'll be voting on in 12 days. Most of it has stayed the same. Just like before, we're looking at a 2.3% tax increase. A lot of people may have seen that the state aid runs came in, and they're projecting that we're gonna get $257,000 more in state aid. And you might wonder why I'm only projecting 129, and that's using past precedent, and that is because we do have lower enrollment than we've had in the past, and because we are having new development come in, I expect that our state aid ratios are going to continue to decline. Last year, we took in nearly $100,000 less than what they had predicted in April. I'm expecting something similar this year. So they say we're going to get 257. I don't think we're going to get 257. I do think we're going to get 130 more, but realistically, when the compressor station hits the tax rolls, they're going to say we're wealthier, and they're going to reduce our sharing ratio for transportation, probably BOCES aid, and maybe the high excess cost aid and the private excess cost aid. Those would be the main ones that are hit. The transportation gets hit the hardest. BOCES is a little less affected by it, but that is why I didn't really adjust that number. I adjusted our other revenues up by $10,000. I think I'll probably be able to earn us a little bit more interest than $30,000. And otherwise, our total budget is going to be $17,196,500. Still about a 2.06% increase. So there wasn't a whole lot of change. We're still looking to be one of the lowest rates in the county. I do expect the rates to decline. I still do not have a number for the compressor station. May 1st is when the first tentative roll is going to come out. And right now I'm still hearing huge ranges. So 20 to 50 million is still, I know, it's a very large range. I don't know what it's going to actually get assessed at, and if it gets assessed on the higher end, we will be putting, not this year, but the next year, we are going to have to put into a tax cert reserve because
they're going to sit.
I don't feel comfortable that they will accept a very large one, but I don't know because I'm not a part of that process.
When would we know, if they miraculously decided not to argue the tax rate that they're given, when would we know that so that money would be accessible to us?
We should just put money into a tax cert reserve anyway. You can use the interest to operate, and hooray, we get some more interest. But I mean, some companies 10 years down the road say, you know what, that assessment you gave me 10 years ago is wrong, and we want 10 years of back taxes. So 10 would actually be the number I would use. I would start saving a little bit of that money every year for 10 years and have a nice big tax cert reserve. If they don't take it, that's great, you have more interest, but I mean, if it gets assessed high, I wouldn't feel comfortable using all of it. Some of it have to go into a tax cert reserve. I already went over the decrease in aid that I would expect and why I only increased it by 129. Otherwise, the other areas that were changed were I removed a guidance counselor. I was not able to get one from BOCES. I added in a special education teacher. That's going to be absolutely necessary. We placed one of the children that I was expecting to be much higher cost at a much lower cost, so that was moved. However, we do have a great deal of increased transportation costs. We have a huge shortage of bus drivers, and my understanding is there's 2 more that will be retiring soon, to the point where sometimes we can't do a field trip. I have 2 children that we're contracting transportation out for because I don't have bus drivers. I have our transportation director drives on occasion. I have one of our mechanics driving, both bus mechanics and a building mechanic. They go out and do a run. So that is an issue that we will need to attempt to remedy at some point here. And the employee benefits, I got some good news on teachers' retirement system. I'm expecting a 2% lower contribution this year. But otherwise, the major changes that happened were the removal of a guidance counselor, the addition of a special ed teacher, and some additional transportation costs. Otherwise, it's the exact same budget that I presented to you last month. And so I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, I'll answer.
Very nice. I'm I'm pleased that we can see the year ahead of us pretty clearly. We know it's going to be tight. We have to do something about our bus drivers. Have we compared our rates for paying bus drivers to the rest of the county and to some of Orange County, Northern Orange County, Western Orange County?
We have a strange structure. If you get a route that is 30 miles away with one student, we actually have somebody on a route like that. They drive 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, twice a day. 3 hours is their shift, and they get paid $140. We have somebody else who has a 6-hour shift, and they get paid $140. We don't have an hourly component to our normal bus routes.
That's not why we have a problem getting trucks.
It is, no, the CDL.
The
is
state
fine.
has made the requirements absurd. And when we met with the senator at BOCES, I told her 2 things. You need to fix the bus driver requirement issue. It's ridiculous to have them trained to fix the engine. They have to be able to open the hood and diagnose the problem. If they get off the bus to diagnose the problem, they're gonna get fired. They have to stay on the bus. So the whole thing is ridiculous. The second thing is, we asked the senator about is to do something with IDAs.
Can you explain what IDAs are? Because the public might not know.
Well, why don't you explain what the IDA does?
So the IDA is an industrial development agency. They have a tax exemption through the state, and they can give that tax exemption out to incoming businesses, existing businesses,
As a
if they're gonna do
stimulus.
additions. And
And the
like
proposed
the Eldred Reserve.
legislation,
And
The
they
Elder
can give
Preserve
away.
got that, yes.
we asked her to propose legislation, and she's going to do it, that gives school boards to vote yes or no on the IDA's proposal.
Correct. And another issue that exists with the IDAs is they give out a tax abatement, right? So they say, Eldred Preserve, you're tax exempt for 5 years, then 25% or 10% each year you have to pay in your taxes until you hit 100, right? So it's called a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes. Because they're not
Yes.
actually paying taxes. They're sending a check directly to me, and they're tax-free.
In your names, no.
No.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
At the end of that, they go back onto the tax rolls. Now, one of the strange things about the tax cap is with pilots, when they go back on the tax rolls, they're not considered new growth, so they never go into the tax cap calculation again. So in that way, you can't access, but it does affect it for state aid purposes, so they do become part of your land well. They
Yeah.
don't go into your growth factor. I also proposed that they put that up, and they have actually for 3 years in a row, so I said, keep doing it. It keeps getting shot down.
Put what up?
Put up a bill that would add them to the growth levy factor, which is part of our tax cap, when they come off of the pilot. Just like a new business would get added.
So they get away with that, they never have to do that beyond.
Well, it gets used to lower everybody's taxes. So the 20 million will go on the tax rolls, everybody's taxes will go down. Our tax cap will be normal, whatever, if it was 2% that year, it'll still be 2%. It doesn't go into the growth factor. But it's going to go into my state aid calculation of my land well. So the state's position is, oh, you can tax more per student, but we're not gonna let you do it without going over the cap. And we're gonna reduce your aid.
Yeah, by the way.
So it's a kind of a weird situation with that, which gives us somewhat of an antagonistic view of IDAs, because they can currently give away tax abatements to the school without the school's consent. Which is an issue.
Is there a stimulus or something that we can give bus drivers? I know we pay for their training, right? Or
We were considering, asking the board to approve a signing bonus.
and that's a possibility. It also costs, they have to get fingerprinted. That's
cover that.
We cover that, $75 to
Yeah.
$100 for that?
Uh-huh.
So they don't have a cost to come and work for us?
Only the CDL. They have to have a commercial driver's license, and it has to be one that allows them to transport students. There's a special one for it.
And they get training for that, right? Don't we
They
pay
do.
for that? But not the
We
CDLs?
provide the training, and we'll pay for the training, yes.
But
We don't
not
pay
the
for the license, because that's theirs, and they can use it wherever.
Okay.
Although I wouldn't be opposed to doing that.
Yeah,
if they
but
wanted to work for us.
maybe something like a signing bonus would help them cover that. Because if you're looking to be a bus driver, but you've got to put out cost, do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
We should,
absolutely.
consider.
it'll be a lot cheaper for us to pay a $4,000 signing bonus, and with the commitment that they stay for the year, they get it at the end of the year, than it is to contract with other companies that are costing us significantly more than that.
Exactly, exactly.
They canceled the game tonight, there's no bus driver.
Say it
They
again.
canceled the game tonight because there's no bus driver.
Really?
And that's with Melissa and Dave driving a lot.
My husband's driving tonight, so he must have called in all the subs too.
There's a game up in Tri-Valley was canceled.
Yep.
The seniors or the high school?
Modified, I believe. JV?
Then
Softball,
where-
girls softball. JV or modified.
But, yeah, we gotta get those positions filled.
Yeah, you don't want to
I don't know
cancel.
what a bus driver's CDL is. I know what mine is. Mine's pushing $300.
That's what I mean, so maybe a
I
signing
don't know what a
bonus.
bus driver's is, but I know what mine is.
I think they're similar. CDL
They're
really
up
is, might be higher levels, but the level you need is a basic CDL. And
And it's a problem statewide.
that's
It
an
is.
output, but, so a signing bonus is a good idea.
Yeah, it is even a problem with the contracting companies. I had a student that I needed to get transported, and I called Rolling B, and they quoted me a price, but said, but unfortunately, we don't have a driver. And I said, I guess we're in the same boat. And we did end up getting transportation through a COSER in BOCES, but it's not easy to come by.
And when we have one student going someplace, do we have smaller vehicles that we send that student in?
There can be, yeah.
And they still need a CDL, those drivers?
Anybody transporting students needs a CDL with an S classification.
S.
And they consider a bus to be any vehicle transporting students, so a van is,
Minivan.
it's a bus. Yeah, minivan is a bus,
Okay.
as far as they're concerned, when transporting students to and from school.
Yes. Maybe we should have an incentive for our coaches to get CDLs. They can drive their own teams.
That would be helpful.
I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here.
There are school districts that, I know Tri-Valley does that.
Does
Yeah, it's
that?
not a bad idea.
The high school principal usually drives.
Work on that CDL there, Chief.
You let me know.
But that is something we should look into, if that's something reasonable. Maybe
Maybe the
some of our
signing bonus.
coaches
Yes, you do.
are
End of the
interested in
year.
that, and that would help. A game like tonight might not have been canceled had one of the coaches been able to drive.
And they get extra pay for going where they were going.
That's right, and they are going anyway,
Yeah,
so,
so there's a,
Good one.
good one.
Yeah, that's a-
All right,
different outlook on it.
very good. Any more questions for Caleb? All right, then we are up to our superintendent's report.
The first item I have tonight is to proudly announce that the Sullivan County School Board Association is recognizing Joshua Glantz as Outstanding Educator of the Year. And Heather Bennell as Outstanding Friend to Education. If you're ever in the high school office and watch Heather take charge of multiple shifting priorities, it's a wonder to behold. This is very important, and this is very important. The door is open, the phone is ringing, Jean's asking a question, I come in, and she handles it all without losing it and takes care of business. I don't know, Jean, if there's anything you want to add about Heather?
She is an absolute,
It's like having five
She's-
people in there.
yeah, it's true. And there is so much business that occurs in the main office every single minute of every single day. And she is able, as Dr. Morgano pointed out, she's able to prioritize when everything that's waiting in the office is really number one on the list. She just knows what to do, who to call. She knows every single student in that building by their first name. And I think a lot of them call her mom. They know she'll take care of, I forgot my lunch money. oh my God, I gotta pay for the prom ticket and I don't have the money. I'm late and my teacher's never gonna buy the reason why. All of that, plus if you've ever spent 15 minutes in a high school main office, the phones never stop ringing. And the intercom doesn't stop, you know, so we are very, very fortunate. And she, as John said, she didn't get upset. She always has a smile on her face. And not only does she know every student, she knows every student's parent, which sometimes doesn't work well for the child, but it works well for us. And she's just, she's a joy.
And I'd like
Absolute
to
joy.
add that, Josh, when I pass by your room in the afternoon and everybody else has gone home, and you have kids in there working, playing games, those are kids that don't fit in a lot of other places and found you, and they find you during lunch, and it's a wonderful thing to watch. Kids that would otherwise, I think, be disenfranchised are together working harmoniously, playing games. And it's a wonderful thing. And I appreciate your help with those kids.
Josh, how many years have you been here? 25. And in those 25 years, how long have you had kids with you after school? And how long have you been finding the ones who don't quite have a slot? 25. And you were one of my son's favorite teachers. I think you know that because they keep telling you and me that, and Bob. And I think it is because you tune in. You tune into where a kid is at, and you value kids. Plus, you're one of the few multi-certified people in district as well, both social studies and English, if I remember correctly, because you were hired the same year that we came to district.
You don't have a CDL, do you?
Yeah. You know, the least you can do.
Right, then you'd be perfect. Well, thank you, Josh, for the work you do.
We have very good, we're well represented this year. I'm very pleased about that, yes.
The next item I have is the state assessments. The principal spoke a little bit about it. I'd like to say that last year we had about 75% participation, and this year we have 95%. I sent another letter home today regarding the math test, because I think it's important that kids take part in the testing program so that we know how they're doing and we know how our program is working. And I'm glad that parents have come around to that point of view. If you came down the road, you saw a little traffic thing blink, maybe blink, if you were going
It
too
was
fast.
blinking.
There's one by the high school. JJ Cass has arranged for those to be put in place. My desire is to have that 30-mile-an-hour zone moved from by the highway department down a little bit closer to the school. It's too far and people don't do 30 that long. When I look out of my window and watch the trucks barrel down past the high school, it's scary if a kid pulls out of that parking lot. I want those blinking lights like Port Jervis has that says 20 miles an hour, and people getting the tickets when they don't. And it seems like a simple thing, but getting lights put up is a big deal. So we're one step closer. Those signs will measure how fast people are going and will be a determining factor in setting the speed limit and whether or not we need the flashing sign. So if you get a chance, go out there and go fast past the sign.
We can help with that.
Tuesday, April 16th, Caleb and I will visit the Highland Senior Citizen Center to talk to them about the budget. We were invited there. We'll be there at 1:30. There's some calendar revisions, as you are probably aware of. Tomorrow is a day off. April 22nd, 23rd is a conference day. May 23rd is a give back day, and the last day of elementary is June 24th, correct?
If that's a Monday, then that's
That's
correct.
the Monday.
Yes.
We have Monday as the last day?
Yep.
Summer help. This summer, I'd like to hire a couple of 18-year-olds to weed whack. If you remember last summer, inside the buildings was a lot of work going on, great progress being done. The outside looked like we were abandoned. I'd like to put a couple of kids to work with weed whacker and pulling weeds. So we'll be looking for a couple of 18-year-olds preferably, so that they can use the weed whacker.
Give you a couple 13-year-olds and have.
Missing a few fingers and toes, are they?
If they can pull the weeds, they're welcome. April 23rd is the Superintendent's Conference Day. We're going to focus on literacy district-wide, and we haven't had a conference day like that since I've been here. And after we focus on literacy, we're going to focus on mathematics. Those are the two core subjects. The sign at this building is being moved. It's in the middle of the parking lot. It's a lighted sign. It's going down by the road, so when you pass the school, you'll know where the school is at night. There's solar lights there that don't last very long. Don Hunt dug a trench from the light pole out here all the way down to the road, and without his help, it would have been too expensive to do. It's all we had to pay for was the wire and the conduit and the cement pillars. So it's something that we're doing that should have been done when the building was built, but we'll take care of that now. The play. I was at the dress rehearsal, and the sound wasn't great. Thanks to Sarah's husband, it was much better during the other performances. But we're looking in for this building and the high school and buying sound equipment. It's not cheap, but it's a shame when a kid is performing, and I've seen kids in this building perform and they're talking and you can't hear a word they're saying because the mic went out. So we have one estimate that we met with some folks, and Scott's going to arrange to have other people come in so that we can improve the sound and the lighting. And I think that other than the color wars that Gina and I had the pleasure of being at today, kids are great. And I told her toward the end, I said, we got to tell them that they did a great job. And after I got their attention, Jean spoke to them, and it is good to tell kids. When we tell them when they don't behave, we should tell them when they do. And they always do the right thing. And you take that for granted after a while of working in a place. Don't take it for granted, because I've worked in places where that's not the case. And the budget newsletter will be out shortly. They have all the information at BOCES. They're just putting it together. And when does that go out, Caleb?
That actually doesn't go out until May 10th. It's got to
May 10th.
go the day after the budget hearing.
So you'll be receiving that at home. Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Not a question, but let's just touch base on May 6th with the seniors in Lumberland we're going to meet with, right? May 6th or 7th? I know, you told me before, I didn't write it
Oh,
down.
yeah. That's why I have it written down.
Wait for him and the phone. Doesn't do
I think it's the
anything
6th.
without.
Anyways, it's the
Well,
first or
you can
second,
look at your flip phone, it won't have.
the first or second Tuesday.
No, 'cause I
But
write
set
it
up a
down.
meeting with the Lumberland seniors that
I
we meet
don't
with
May
them.
7th.
need
May 7th.
that gizmo.
1 o'clock, Lumberland Senior Citizens.
We just figured we'd reach out to both towns to see, you know, they may not like to come out after dark to the meetings, you know, so we figured we'd go to them and explain to them what our intentions are with the budget, where we're going forward. And that was just the thought that the three of us had, and made a couple phone calls, and they're gonna entertain us, so.
Okay, question?
I asked my son how the color wars were, how it happened, how it was, excuse me. And he's like, Mom, I bet Miss Maxon was a beast when she was younger. I was like, what do you mean? He says, I bet she was the leader of the pack. She was a formidable woman.
Ooh.
That's what Matthew said. I was like, oh.
Formidable. Your son used the word formidable? I'm impressed. Okay. I'm gonna
Literacy's
remember that.
working well, too. This is good.
Formidable. All right.
Maybe it was the crown.
Maybe. He said it was nice seeing you guys there, though.
Cool.
We have a good time.
Any questions for Dr. Morgano? All right, I have a very short report. I just want to tell you that one, I enjoyed the play immensely. Two, John and Amador and I were up at the Sullivan County BOCES for the annual meeting of the BOCES, and we got to walk around and see a lot of the projects that are done. And John won one of the raffles. I tried to win, but he won. And then we also, John and I attended a meeting with Jan Metzger, and the other BOCES, or I should say the other Sullivan County superintendents and board presidents were there as well, and it was very interesting to see her in person, listen to her. She sounds very pro-education and very for schools, so I hope that she can get done some of the things that we mentioned to her that she said, some are in the works. It was interesting. Some have been put before the commissioners, some have been agreed to by the commissioners, some are working their way up the chain to get to the commissioner, some are still being discussed, but she had a handle on everything that was asked of her.
Yes.
Nothing was new to her, so I was very pleased with that. And then, well, I guess that's it, though, those three things this month. And, okay, so questions for me, anybody? We are up to public comment on the consent agenda only. So please come up and use the microphone, which I think Caleb has. Anybody coming up? Public comment? All right. Okay, we are going to go into consent agenda, and that is number 4, number 5. What is the substance of the consent agenda? I'm looking at the agenda now. All the way through to 8. So 4 through 8 on the agenda, which is the minutes and the warrants, communications, and approval of the election inspectors. George Kane, Deborah Kane, Susan Gregg, Fitz Kaiser are the custodians inspectors for the vote, which is on May 21st. We're approving that. Acceptance of the resignation of Vanira Jurea, chemistry teacher. Approval of the tutor, approval of the spring coach, approval of special ed placements, health and welfare contract for Pine Bush, and it's under that, I see. Approval of homestead transportation for 2019-2020, approval of new policies and revisions.
What's that all about?
What?
The
Which
new
one?
policies and revisions. What are we approving there? What's being revised?
On the next page, or if you have the paper, counseling and guidance programs, student personal expression, student health services, and student health services regulation. Those are all policies. This is a first reading.
We need some wording changes.
Okay.
It says, interestingly enough, it says recommended action approval, but then it says first reading. Yeah, but, so we wouldn't approve the first reading, though.
You're just approving that you
The first
Right.
first reading.
Okay, I see. So then number 8 says approval of the consent items.
Those are updates we get from school board.
School Board Association that we are members of sends us periodically over the school year updates to policy. A lot of times it's language that is fixed to become more inclusive. A lot of times it's specifics. Something might come up in a policy that gets argued in court, and so consequently the policy is changed or tweaked so that it addresses that issue more closely.
Okay.
So those kinds of things.
I was just
always.
curious.
Yep, sure. Any other questions about the consent agenda? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. So now are we discussing? Any discussion?
Guess I already did that, sorry.
Yes, you did. That's all right. I was kind of out of order myself. Out of order. All right, well then I need we'll proceed to the vote. Mrs. Q?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Fletcher?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
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 Thank you very much. So that is everyone. We will move on now to policy.
Business, isn't it? New business. Old business.
Yes, we are up to
Announcement of-
announcement of Board of Education seat vacancies.
You want to-
Excuse me. So 9.01, announcement of the Board of Education seat vacancies, expiring term of Carol Bleepernick, 5-year term from July 1st to 2019 through June 30th of 2024. A 3-year term from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022, and 1-year term from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Petitions are available through me, District Clerk, and they must be filed in the office by April 22nd, 2019. That is Monday. I will be in the office even though the school is closed from 9 to 5 that day. They will not be accepted after 5 o'clock. Announcement 9.02, the announcement of the district budget vote. The district budget vote will be on May 21st, 2019 from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the junior senior high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on those subjects? We will move on to the second public comment. Anybody have anything to say about anything? Hi, Kristen.
The microphone is not on.
I don't need a microphone.
Oh, okay.
My name is Kristen Smith of Bewlin. 2 kids in the district. Jillian's in elementary, 5th grade, 5's and 10. I'm really curious about the discipline, about consequences for the kids in the elementary school. If there's some kind of protocol in place as far as discipline with the kids. There was a couple of situations this week, and I'm just really confused about the whole discipline and accountability situation for the younger kids. So I guess my question's for Mr. Krebs. If there's some kind of a protocol, like a first warning and then second warning, and then, like, how does that go for these kids?
Do you want me to
Oh, yes,
address
please.
that?
Mhm.
It's all consistent upon each individual child. So depending on the circumstances with children, whether they happen in the classroom, in recess, during cafeteria time, it's all individualized. We do have a policy that is in place about those type of things. Typically, they tend to be first instance versus second instance versus third instance with children, so it's progressive in nature. But I can't really get into specifics with any individual because they all vary depending on the circumstances. And individual teachers, they have their own consequences, whether they're positive or negative in nature. So some of the consequences that they might be putting in place might be a reward system for type of things that are occurring
So
within the
not
classroom.
all issues come to you. If the teacher deals with it at the classroom level,
I don't-
then you wouldn't hear about it.
Correct. So, it's all individualized in nature and individualized by teacher also.
But we do have a policy.
Yes,
We do have a behavior policy that we use
you
as a
have a
guideline.
policy.
If you'd like to see a copy of it, you can get one from the office. We always have the policies available.
We have the code of conduct.
Well, that's what it's called. I said, what did I call it? Behavior something. Code of conduct. We have the code of conduct.
So if a child, like, let's say there's no special circumstances, if a child breaks the code of conduct, is there a warning? And then, do you know what I mean? Like, is there some kind of protocol in place
There
from
is
the
for each-
principal?
There's a breakdown in the new code of conduct that we didn't have in the old one. That has the behavior, or the misbehavior, and then the consequence continuum. Most of them start with a warning, but you don't have to start with a warning. You can jump to a different level if it's a repeat offense. And the other thing we do, and I did tonight with Scott, we looked at a bus video. It's always interesting to watch the video on a bus because it has sound. And some of the things that you hear are not what the kids say they said. So we do that. And I think the new code of conduct has been a giant step forward in managing kids' behavior, because it does specify each infraction. And we'll be updated this summer, because kids always come up with some other action that we hadn't thought of. I don't know, Scott or Gene, if there's anything you want to add?
I can just add that children's behaviors are sometimes also based on disabilities that they might have. So if children have 504 plans or behavioral plans put in place, typically teachers and staff should be following those plans that are put in place.
Those supersede the code of conduct. Very often.
And they might be even written into an IEP that says you have to do these certain steps. So not always are behavioral issues even addressed with other people because they're individual in nature, and they fall under FERPA, I believe. And so therefore they're addressed with the individual in case, not the group as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to go into executive.
Hold on,
Yes.
I just want to make a statement. Being around town a lot, everybody's saying, oh, they're not gonna pop the cap, this budget's gonna go through, no problem, bing, bang, boom. I agree with that to an extent. People will get complacent and they'll be driving home from work and say, oh, I don't need to vote, it's gonna go through. That we cannot have, because it could turn like that. You're gonna get your no votes, your 200, 250 no votes. The people, you have to get the word out there, the people have to come out and vote and show their support. It's big, it's a big thing, and I'm telling, oh yeah, that budget's gonna go through, you guys did the right thing, you're not popping a cap, okay. I'm not one to count my eggs in the basket before they're in the basket. So I just wanted to try to, put that out there. If you're in town and you're talking to people, say, hey, make sure you vote, because it's important. It's important to show the community that, it's supported. It's up there, that, this is gonna happen. So I just wanted to put that out there, because that's what I'm hearing, and that worries me, because I've seen it go the bad way, because people lay on the couch and say, I'm not gonna go out and vote. Why bother? It's gonna go through. We do have three people running, that's gonna bring some people out, I get that. But I just wanna make sure the word gets out there that you need to come out and vote.
And as you say that, reminder, May 9th is Meet the Candidate night, and this year we have 3 candidates up for re-election or election, and it's important that you know who they are. I don't know how many people have even picked up applications, let alone will submit them, so please familiarize yourself with those candidates and make a good choice for the board, because that's absolutely important. 3 candidates is a huge number for our little board. So please do vote and come out for May 9th at 6 o'clock here. At 6 o'clock here for the Meet the Candidate. Get the word out, please. Any other comments from the board?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Enter executive session, 7:58, to discuss collective contract negotiations. Do we have a
Thank
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
And there'll be no